Quite honestly, I wouldn't have had any particular choices. I need to adjust this. But when I got here and I saw the music, I could not have picked better music. And in fact, I wouldn't even have thought of some of these songs. Any of you who know me know that I did really good to stay in my seat during that song because I wanted to be up here dancing. So thank you so much for all the musicians. To John, your meditation was beautiful. Thank you for doing that for us. I want to start with scripture this morning from Philippians 1:3-5 and verse 9. I thank my God every time I remember you, constantly praying with joy in every one of my prayers for all of you because of your sharing in the gospel from the first day until now. And this is my prayer, that your love may overflow. And from Ephesians 1:16, I do not cease to give thanks for you as I remember you in my prayers. I chose these scriptures from Paul's letters this morning because they are filled with so much gratitude and so much remembrance and so much thankfulness. And I think that is a great theme for this, our Memorial Day weekend. The hope in these scriptures, the memory, the warmth, I just love them. They're some of my favorite. I have lots of great memories of Memorial Days, and one of the things that I had actually forgotten until I started to prepare this talk is that Memorial Day used to be called Decoration Day. How many of you remember that? I had totally forgotten it, but when I read it, I thought, oh yeah, my mom always used to call it Decoration Day. I looked up on Wikipedia, and of course, we all know that Decoration Day was started after the Civil War, specifically to remember the lives lost in the Civil War and all the wars we have fought since then. But Memorial Day as a 3-day weekend, as we know it, began in 1968 when Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act. And it turned Memorial Day and 3 other holidays into a 3-day weekend, and that began in 1971. So that's the way we get to our 3-day weekends. You were right there. All right. So Memorial Day is a secular day, a secular or cultural holiday. It's not a religious holiday, not like Pentecost or Christmas or Easter. But it is a holiday that, even though it is a cultural holiday, I think it does have very important spiritual aspects to it. And the two that I want to talk about today are gratitude and community. Memorial Day is experienced in a wide variety of ways for people. For just about all of us, of course, it is a time to pay respects to the people who have died defending our freedom and our wonderful country through our many wars. In particular, it is a time to remember them, but I think it has expanded because I remember as a child, we would go and decorate the graves of everybody, not just someone in our family who had maybe served in a war. We do want to remember those who have served in the wars and fought for us and defended our freedom with enormous gratitude this weekend, as well as the families that bear the burden of their grief and the burden of, they share the burden of this, or actually have the burden of all of our conflicts. So we do remember the families as well as those who have died. I also want to point out that for some people, Memorial Day may be more painful than others. For a lot of us, it's really kind of a true holiday, a lot of celebration. But if you have lost a family member or a friend this last year, those first holidays without them can be very painful. You have a lot of awareness when they're not at the supper table, they're not at the family reunions. So especially we remember also those who have lost someone this last year for whom this may be a particular time of sadness. I remember as a child having these big bushes in our backyard. They're called, I think they were called peonies or peonies. I'm not exactly sure the pronunciation, but they're huge flowers that bloom in May. And we had a lot of these flowers, and we would go and we would cut them. And then we would take them to the graveyards up in North Missouri, where I'm from, to decorate all of the various family members up there. And I remember Even though I really didn't exactly understand what we were doing, I understood that what I was doing was really important, that it was important to take time to remember our ancestors, to remember these people, all of which I had no memory of. I didn't know who they were. And I remember during the day it was always kind of fun because you'd hear great stories. You know, some of them were very funny stories, but they were always stories with warmth and compassion, and you know, back to what Paul was saying, the remembering with gratitude and their partnership with these people. They were very warm stories, and I knew that it was really, really important to be doing what we were doing. I think it's important that when we talk about remembering the past, I want to emphasize this is not about getting stuck in the past. It's about healing the past and remembering the past and giving gratitude with it so that we can live fully in the present and move to the hopeful future that we are called to. Remembering is not just a nice thing to do. Memorial Day is not just something we check off of our list. It's a spiritual journey. It's a part of who we are as a people and our connectedness. We often talk about being wired for love. I will think we are also wired for gratitude. Did you ever notice how quickly makeshift memorials spring up any time there's a tragedy? I think it's about our connectedness, our compassion for each other. Maybe it's part of that helplessness we feel in a time of grief. But I notice whenever I watch the news, for example, times like 9/11, Oklahoma City bombing, Katrina, Challenger accident, almost immediately there are makeshift memorials. Flowers and teddy bears and cards and candles show up immediately. And it's from people that don't necessarily know the people that have died, but it's our connectedness. It's that all of our hearts are broken and that all of us feel a need to be connected and to express our gratitude for people and our compassion for the families that are impacted by these tragedies. It seems to be wired into us individually and as a culture, and it's part of our healing process. As I was thinking about the ways that we memorialize people, I kind of put them into two broad categories. I'm going to call one, broadly speaking, sort of tribute memorials. When I think about this, I'm thinking about war memorials, the grave stone markers, those little paver bricks you can buy that remember somebody, and it's usually used as a fundraiser for something. There are ways to keep those names alive and to keep those memories alive. And then there's these memorials that I would call sort of living memorials. And here I'm thinking about things like the Komen Race for the Cures, or MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They're memorials that have been set up that actually impact our time right now, where it makes those tragedies, it makes them try to help or fix or create a better future so that those tragedies don't have to happen again. So I think there's a lot of ways, a lot of important ways, that we can remember people. Another way is universities. They have tons or innumerable amounts of scholarships that have been set up by people who have died, or for people who have died by their loved ones and for their families. And again, this is a way that their work can go on. It's just not about remembering a name, but they continue to influence the world by the people that they give scholarships for. Those people can get educated and then can go on and do great things. I am reminded of a poem that I found in my mother's possessions, and I used it at her celebration of life service, and I'd like to share it today. It's called Gone From Our Sight, and it's by Henry Van Dyke. I am standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the morning breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud just under the sea and sky, just where the sea and sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, she's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as she was when she left my side, and she is just as able to bear the load of living freight to her destined point. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone at my side says, "There, she's gone," there are other eyes watching her coming and other voices ready to take up the loud shout, "Here she comes," and that is dying. I love this poem because I think it says so well that when people transition, they're gone from our sight, but they're not gone. And they continue to live on in their spirit form, and they continue to live on in the memories we have, but also in those living memorials in ways that people set up scholarships or organizations that help them continue to do the work right in the here and now and help us to have a more hopeful future. And finally, I think Memorial Day, like all holidays, is about community. And community is where hope is found. And by the way, you have a sign out in your hall about community, and I was reading it this morning, and it's like perfect, so I have to find out where I can get me a copy of that. A couple of years ago, I was driving around McAllen, where I live, and I saw these white bikes that were painted and chained to lampposts or street signs or whatever. And I was curious about these bikes. I didn't know what they were about, but they just sort of started springing up around the city. Tragically, I found out what the bikes were about a few months later. There's an organization called Ghost Bikes, and these bikes are put up wherever there was a biking accident and a biker was killed. And they're put up in memory of that biker. And this organization once a year organizes a silent ghost bike ride, and they ride past the bikes that have been put out that year. And that year I lost a friend in a biking accident, and so I rode part of the way on the ghost bike ride. Again, it was about community that helps us heal. We can have a loss in our life, but when we can come together in some sort of a community in fellowship with each other, that is part of our healing process. Community is one of the places that we go when we're looking and needing to find hope. We are connected. We all know that. And we know best who we are when we're in community with other people, when we're in relationship with them, when we're supported by them. We get our identity from the communities that we belong to, whether it's a biking group that does a ghost bike ride, whether it's a faith community, a civic organization, wherever we find ourselves in relationship with others, then that is where we can find our healing and our hope. We find hope there because we discover that we matter, that we belong to a group, that who we are makes a difference to the world. This weekend, we will have a wide variety of ways to celebrate our Memorial Day, our national holiday. Around the country, there will be parades and concerts. There's going to be ecumenical services, interfaith services. There'll be cookouts and baseball games and concerts, reunions. So many ways that we will be gathering in communities where we will find hope. Not only hope that is found, but hope that can abound. For me, faith seems to be centered around gratitude for what already is, and community. Wherever two or more are gathered, there we find it. I want to conclude today by reading the daily word for tomorrow. I thought it was very good. Today I give thanks for those who have come before me, for the men and women who have served their country to make the world a better place. I honor their memories with prayers of gratitude. I do not have to agree with the premise of war or to understand the sacrifice these souls have made. I also bring to mind family members and friends who have passed from this physical plane, those who have been a special part of my life. These loved ones are still with me, in my awareness and in my heart. Our souls are intricately woven together and cannot be separated. I give thanks for the life I live because others gave their light, life, and love. Remembering the past, I live in the present and move into the future in a spirit of oneness and peace. We are connected to each other. And my intention and my hope for all of us this weekend is that when we celebrate and as we celebrate our national holiday, we will do so with gratitude that overflows.